All right, so I'm going to give you a couple of tips here. Hopefully you're watching this video. This is section 2-3 part B. Is talking about y-intercept and slope with the equation y equals mx plus b. On your homework, you've got 1 through 4 in terms of finding the slope. Hopefully you won't need help with those. If you do need help, go back and look at my previous video in terms of trying to figure out slope from 2 points. This next one says find the slope and y-intercept of each line. So here's an example of something you may want to do whenever you see the graph of a line. First and foremost, again, the idea is slope y-intercept is y equals mx plus b. That's the format. M is your slope. Hopefully these things are starting to sound familiar. And b is the y-intercept. So I look at the equation here, and the first thing I want to do is look at where the line crosses the y-axis. So as I look at this, I notice that here it is right here. Crosses it at 2. Let me bump up my pen size here just a little bit. So I notice that it is right here at -2. So immediately for this equation, I have b equals -2. So let's figure out slope. I look at my line and I see where can I identify the next point over. So I can look at this and say, well, wait a minute, there's a point right here at 3, -3 on the line as well. How do I figure slope? Slope is rise over run. So the question I ask myself is, if I go from here, that point, to that point right there, can't even get rid of those. Shapes, where's my pointer? So the question I have to ask myself is, how do I go from this point right there to this point right there? And I'm going to look at rise over run. So I'm going to go, I know that I need to go over, so rise over run, I'm going to go left to right. That's rise over run because it's, I'm sorry, rise. Rise, I'm going to go up and down first. So I notice that to get from this point to this point, I'm going to go down 1 and then over 1, 2, 3. Down 1 is always a negative, so it's -1 over 1, 2, 3 to get to the point. There's my slope, -1/3. So I've got my m right over there, and I've got my b right down here. Now I can fill this equation in. Y equals -1/3 x minus 2. There's my equation of that line. I'm going to press on and start talking about graphing each of the equations below. Grab a new slide here. Is basically the same idea. I'm going to use the same y equals mx plus b. So number 7 says y equals 2/3 x minus 2. So immediately I know where my line crosses the y-axis, this being the y-axis, this being the x-axis. I know that my line that I'm about to draw here crosses the y-axis at -2. So I start putting my hash marks in. And I go over here and I say, okay, the line crosses, let me change colors here, crosses it at -2. So there's my point. I also know that the slope of my line is 2/3, which is right here. There's the slope, which basically, here we go with rise over run again. I know that the next point on my line here is going to be up 2 and over to the right 3 because they're both positive values. So I'm going to count this off on ticks. Up 2, 1, 2, over to the right 3, 1, 2, 3. There's my other point. I've got 2 points, and I just draw a line right through them. And that's my line. So that's number 7. Moving on, new slide. So I'm going to go ahead and do number 8 as well. 8 looks a little bit differently because it's not set up so easily as 7 was. So make sure I got 8 here. This is going to be 3x plus 2y. Sorry for the volume, by the way. I just changed out a battery, so I might sound even louder than I did in the previous slide. 3x plus 2y equals 9. Now the problem here is that I need it in the format y equals mx plus b. Y has to be all by itself. So I've got to get rid of 3x. I got some stuff I got to do here first. So let me get rid of that real quick. So that's the format that I want. So I've got to do some things. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. I cannot combine these, so what am I left with? 2y equals negative 3x minus 9. Then I've got to go ahead and get rid of the 2. I'm going to divide everything by 2. So I get y equals negative 3/2 x minus 9 over 2. A little bit messy, but I'm still gonna get through it here. I'm gonna add, let me add the formula up here. 3/2 x minus 9 over 2, and I go to graph. Set up my graph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got my y-intercept. Negative 9.5 is roughly negative 4.5, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4.5 roughly there. There's my y-intercept. And I know that my rise over run is negative 3 over 2. I can either use the negative for the 3 or the negative for the 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it for the 2, considering the way that my graph is set up. So I'm going to go, I know it's going to sound weird, but I'm going to go up 3. 1, 2, 3. And then what I want to do is use the negative for the 2. So instead of going to the right 2, since I'm going to use the negative now, I'm going to go negative 2 to the left. There's my new point and my line. All right, a little bit of a tougher one there. Moving on. I am also going to do 11 just to show you real quick. So we've got negative 6x plus 3y equals negative 18. Once again, I got to do something to it. So I am going to add 6x to both sides. So I got 3y equals 6x minus 18. Then I'm going to divide by 3. Again, all the goal is to get the y all by itself. That's going to cancel. Y equals 2x minus 6. Let's go ahead and graph that. Got my graph. I know that my y-axis, my y-intercept, is negative 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my y-intercept. Now, when I've got a solid slope, it's still rise over run. So I'm going to take 2, and I'm going to just put it over 1. So there's my rise over run. 2 over 1 is equal to the solid number of 2. So I'm going to go up 2, 1, 2, over 1, and there's my line right there. Hope it helps.